A 17-year-old Filipino student from a school with no air conditioning just defeated Korea's most celebrated mathematics prodigy at the International Math Olympiad, and the method he used has mathematicians questioning everything they thought they knew about Asian education systems. What you're about to discover isn't just about mathematics. It's about why the world's most expensive education systems are producing students who crack under pressure, while a teenager from Manila, who studies by candlelight during power cuts, just rewrote the rules. The Korean student had private tutors since age 4. His parents spent $200,000 on his education. He achieved perfect test scores for 13 years straight. The Filipino student attends a government school with 50 students per classroom. He shares textbooks. His family earns $400 monthly. But here's what nobody saw coming, and here's why education experts are now frantically rewriting their theories about intelligence. If you want to see how the underdog wins when the system is rigged against them, hit subscribe now because this story gets even more unbelievable. Let me introduce you to Park Jin-woo, Seoul's golden child. He started calculus at age 6. By 8, he was appearing on national television solving university-level problems while other children were learning multiplication tables. South Korea spends $100 billion annually on private tutoring. Students study 16 hours daily. This isn't an exaggeration, it's the documented standard. Jin-woo's mother quit her job to manage his education schedule. His father works 2 jobs to afford the tutors. There are 5 of them, each specializing in a different area of mathematics. The family's entire life revolves around Jin-woo's academic success. A 2023 study in the Journal of Asian Education showed that 73% of elite Korean students show clinical anxiety symptoms. Jin-woo displayed every single marker. His track record was immaculate. Perfect scores in 47 consecutive mathematics competitions. International judges knew his name. University professors were already fighting over which institution would secure him. The bookmakers in Seoul had him at 95% certainty for the gold medal. Everyone assumed the gold medal was already his. That's when a quiet kid from Quezon City walked into the competition hall. But Jin-woo had a weakness nobody knew about, and it would cost him everything in the final round. Miguel Santos, 17 years old, from Quezon City. He discovered mathematics through a donated textbook with pages missing. He taught himself calculus from YouTube videos that buffered every few minutes because his internet connection was unreliable. He attends a public school where the roof leaks during monsoon season. There's no laboratory equipment. The electricity cuts out twice weekly, usually during exams. His father drives a jeepney through Manila's chaotic traffic. His mother sells lugaw and fish balls at a market stall, waking at 3 a.m. every morning. Miguel has 2 younger siblings. The entire family lives in a 2-room house. But Miguel had an advantage nobody recognized. He learned to solve problems creatively because he couldn't afford the standard textbooks or tutoring. When a formula was missing from his damaged textbook, he had to derive it himself. When the electricity cut out during study time, he worked through problems in his head. A 2024 MIT study found that students who learn with constraints develop 34% better creative problem-solving abilities than those with unlimited resources. Miguel was living proof. He studies at the local public library from 5 a.m. because it's the only place with reliable electricity and air conditioning. While Jin-woo was being driven to his private study sessions, Miguel was walking 45 minutes each way to reach the library. While Jin-woo had a team of 5 coaches preparing him for 8 months, Miguel prepared alone for 3 months whilst working part-time at his uncle's motorcycle repair shop. The competition had 6 rounds. Jin-woo dominated the first 5. Miguel was consistently second. Then came the final problem, and this is where everything changed. The question stumped 47 of the 50 competitors. Only 3 even submitted an answer. But Miguel saw something nobody else did. The final problem was a combinatorics question that required non-traditional thinking. No standard formula would work. This was deliberate. The judges wanted to see who could truly think rather than who could merely execute learned techniques. Jin-woo attempted 7 different classical methods he'd been trained to use. Each failed. Cameras captured his hands shaking 90 minutes into the examination. He was still without a solution. His tutors had prepared him for every scenario they could imagine, but they couldn't imagine this. Miguel's approach came from an unexpected place. He used a technique he'd improvised while fixing motorcycles with his uncle. He drew a diagram on the back of a napkin first, something his formal education had never taught him. The examination hall went silent. Judges leaned forward. Jean Wu glanced over and saw Miguel writing furiously with the confidence of someone who'd found the answer. Miguel finished with 12 minutes remaining. Jean Wu still had no viable solution. Cognitive flexibility research from Stanford in 2024 showed that students who solve real-world mechanical problems develop spatial reasoning that translates directly to advanced mathematics. Miguel wasn't just good at mathematics. He understood how systems worked because he'd spent years taking apart engines and putting them back together. The judges took 40 minutes to verify Miguel's solution. It was not only correct but more elegant than the official answer key. The method he'd used was so novel that it would later be published in a mathematics journal. Jean Wu's face as the announcement was made told the entire story. Years of pressure, hundreds of thousands of dollars, thousands of hours of tutoring, all undone in 90 minutes by someone who'd learned mathematics for the simple reason that he found it interesting. Miguel's genuine surprise was captured on camera. He hadn't expected to win. The Philippine delegation erupted. Some were crying. But this wasn't just about one competition. What happened next revealed something much bigger about how we think about intelligence. Korean education officials demanded an investigation. They couldn't accept what the numbers were telling them. The investigation took 2 weeks. They verified Miguel's background. No special training. No hidden tutors. Genuinely self-taught. The results were published publicly. Korean media had to confront an uncomfortable truth. But there's a bigger pattern here that nobody was discussing. The Philippines has been quietly producing mathematics champions despite spending 8% of what Korea spends per student. A 2024 UNESCO report found that education spending beyond a certain threshold shows diminishing returns. After a certain point, creativity matters more than resources. Korea had crossed that threshold years ago. The Philippines hadn't reached it yet, and that was their advantage. The Korean system's response was immediate and dramatic. 3 elite tutoring academies shut down within a month. Parents began questioning the $200,000 investments they'd made. Online forums exploded with mothers asking whether they'd been doing it wrong all along. Miguel's life changed overnight. Scholarship offers from 14 universities, including Seoul National University. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Jean Wu admitted in a subsequent interview that he'd never solved a problem his tutors hadn't already shown him how to solve. He could execute perfectly, but he couldn't think independently. An educational psychologist quoted in the Korea Times said this: "We've created a generation of students who can execute perfectly but can't think independently. We've optimized for test scores and destroyed the capacity for original thought." Singapore, Japan, and Taiwan all began questioning their high-pressure educational models. Government committees were formed. The Philippines' resource-limited innovation model is now being studied by 6 countries. What was once seen as a disadvantage is now being recognized as a potential strength. So what does this mean for you, especially if you're a student or parent watching this right now? Because there's a hidden cost to the Korean model that nobody talks about, and it's destroying more than just mathematics scores. South Korea has the highest student suicide rate in the developed world. The 2023 numbers showed an 18% increase. Students are killing themselves from the pressure. A 2024 study in the Journal of Adolescent Health found that 81% of elite Korean students show signs of burnout by age 16. These aren't isolated cases. This is systemic. Korean students score 23% lower on creative thinking assessments compared to Filipino students, despite achieving higher standardized test scores. They can solve problems they've seen before, but they struggle with novel situations. The long-term consequences are measurable. Korean adults show higher rates of anxiety disorders and lower entrepreneurial success rates compared to other developed nations. Jean Wu's story didn't end at the competition. He took a year off to recover from the pressure. He's now studying music, something he'd always wanted to do but never had time for. His parents supported the decision, finally recognizing what the pursuit of perfection had cost their son. Miguel's approach was different from the start. He learned for curiosity rather than competition. He solved real problems rather than theoretical exercises. A 2024 Harvard study found that intrinsic motivation produces 56% better long-term retention than extrinsic pressure. Miguel remembered what he learned because he genuinely wanted to understand it. The practical takeaway for parents is uncomfortable. The fortune you're spending on tutoring may be doing more harm than good. Pressure creates fragility. Curiosity creates resilience. Miguel now mentors other students in his community, teaching them to see limitations as creative opportunities. He holds free sessions at the same library where he used to study. He's teaching them mathematics, but more importantly, he's teaching them to think. But here's the question that's making people uncomfortable in education ministries across Asia. Would you rather be Jinwoo, with every advantage and all the pressure, or Miguel, with nothing but curiosity and the freedom to think differently? Tell us in the comments. Is expensive education worth it if it kills creativity? Or is struggle actually the secret ingredient to genius? And if you want more stories about underdogs who beat the system by changing the rules, subscribe now because sometimes the biggest advantage is having no advantages at all.